All right. So again, good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate everybody for showing up for this webinar talking about the new application that was issued by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Some things I want to kind of get you set up for is, what is this all about? It's basically, think of it as the catalog approval that we used to do not very long ago. In fact, just a few months ago. It's the same thing, but in this case, it's a new application. The new application now is standardized across the country. And this one we're going to talk about today refers to just the NCD schools. There's some for IHL schools, but they're different. We're just going to focus on NCD schools at this point. Some of the things you'll need to know is there's a difference between reapproval and modification to approvals. So this form that we're talking about today is going to deal with reapprovals. And basically the way the reapprovals work are that every 24 months, you as a school certifying official or whoever is going to be responsible for it will submit this application. We'll review it. And once we're finished with it, that will be the reapproval for your school at that point. Now, if in between those 24 months, you have a new program, policies change, some things that affect student certifications, then you'll need to send in a modification to your approval. At that point, just contact us and we'll work with you. We're still getting a little bit of clarification from the VA, what they're looking for the modifications, and we're not going to focus on that today. But I want to make sure that you understand that this form today is about the reapprovals for your courses. Again, same thing as what it was before with the catalog approvals. It's basically the same functions at that point. When it comes to the 24-month, you might be wondering, so when am I due as a school? What we ask is find the most recent letter that you received from our agency, Tennessee State Approving Agency. If it was in the last few months, it probably has my signature on it. Before that, it may have been Debbie, Penny, Arena, whatever. But look for that. If it is not just a change or a modification, but it looks like a whole reapproval, then the date of that letter, add 24 months to it, and that should be your next reapproval. If you're reapproved in the last few months, we've actually been putting dates on there when your next reapproval's due. And if that doesn't answer your question at that point, you can ask. We ask, please don't flood our emails right now because that would be a lot of people, I'm sure. But what we are going to start February 1st is start sending out emails to any schools that need to do a reapproval and then get that rolling. We're going to do those if you're within 21 months of the last reapproval, so we can get all this paperwork submitted from your school, look at it, and have it done before that 24-month time frame ends. So we'll keep you informed as we go. All right. At that point, I think what I'll do is I'm going to actually pass it on to Arena, and she's going to tell you a little bit about where you can find these forms. So as we're looking through this, you can actually pull it up and look at it if you like.
So as we've come out with the new application, and the VA came out with the new application, we've updated our website a little bit to reflect those forms. So if you're on the Veterans Education webpage, you're still going to go to the application for Veterans Education Benefits, and it's going to take you to that same page you guys are probably previously have used. There has been some confusion that on the left-hand side, these are tabs that you can actually click into. So all of you are NCD facilities, so you are going to click the NCD tab, and these are going to be the forms that you're going to need. So it's going to be the NCD, the application, the 22-102-88, and then the TNSA-2 program submission list. And then the actual catalog application submission link is also going to be there. Any additional forms you might need are going to be under additional forms at the bottom, and these are going to be PDF downloads you can use. As the VA does change documents fairly frequently, it is recommended that you download the forms from our website and not use ones you previously used. And a note on that for the new application, when you click into it, it is suggested that you download it and use it on your computer, Adobe, so you can save in changes as you go through it. It doesn't always save changes if you use it from, directly from the website. You have any other comments on the website?
I don't think so.
Okay. We'll pass it on to Penny for the next step.
And hopefully I can pull this up. Can y'all see the form? This is the actual application. So first of all, it is not 28 pages long. This is the full complete application for any school that is not an IHL, can't think today. So I went ahead and pulled up just the full application. It's not 28 pages. So basically, this is it. If you guys are non-college degrees, so you're gonna click on this and it tells you only have to do worksheet A. If you happen to fall into any of these other categories, it tells you specifically which worksheet you need to use. On the website that Arena just showed you, if you click on the correct school type, you will get just the piece of this application that you need to fill out. It won't be the entire 28 page. It will be this part 1 and then the worksheet A. Just wanted to point out a few things to y'all. The highlighting that you see on here will not be on the application. These are just areas that I've highlighted to kind of cover with you as we go through this. The first part is pretty simple. The name of the organization, your VA facility code, the physical address of the school. So where's the school located? And then your mailing address if it's different. If y'all have a website, you can put it here. School certifying official, and on this application, this authorizing official signature is kind of in a different place than everywhere else. So something to think about is some of these things that you'll be initialing and signing for deal with policy. So you need to think about who the appropriate person is going to be to sign this form. It may not necessarily be the SEO. It could be the SEO, but it may not necessarily be the SEO. So all the schools, everybody has to fill out this part, and then this is worksheet A, which is specific to non-college degree programs. You have some options up here. Initial application is if you're brand new, never been approved before. The 24-month review is what Ken was talking about. It's a full reapproval. We're required to do a full reapproval every 24 months. So that's what you're gonna click on here. The approval updates. I don't think we're really using that right now.
Yeah, if there's an approval update, like I said, modification, contact us. Or if we get better information, we'll inform everyone.
So in this section here, if you have a new extension campus that you would like approved, you would list it here, whatever the name of that campus is, and then the address. So this would be if you wanted to add a new extension campus. This section here is previously approved, so any extensions that are currently approved, you would go ahead and list them here with the facility code, the campus name, and the complete address. If you have more than 4 currently approved extensions, you can use an extra sheet of paper just to list them out. It tells you that right here. If there's more than 4, you're just gonna add them to an extra sheet of paper. If you have so this says previously approved off-campus locations. If you have an extension to campus that was previously approved but has been withdrawn and you're not using it anymore, you don't have to list it again. If we've already withdrawn it, you don't need to list it there. It's just the ones that you're currently using. And this is if you need to add a brand new one that you've never had approved before. You're gonna just click what type of institution you are. Are you a public school? Are you private for-profit or private nonprofit? Just ask general questions. Talks about if you've had a change of ownership. If yes, we need some of the details relevant to that. Block 7, the state governing body that authorizes your facility to operate. The Tennessee State Approving Agency, we are not a governing body that can authorize you to operate in the state of Tennessee. So I'm gonna have Ken give a little clarification about that.
Yeah, so for governing bodies, any of the TCATs, your governing body is of course TBR, so you would put that in that place. For other institutions, if you are TCUA, which I don't think anybody is on for this webinar for TCUA, there is an exemption out there for you at that point. For other schools, if you are authorized by Division of Post-Secondary Authorization, which is here in THAC, they would have provided you a letter saying you're authorized to operate within the state of Tennessee. Yeah, that letter will take care of you at that point. If you do not have an authorization with them, you should have an exemption. If you don't have an exemption, you'll need to contact them to get an exemption at that point. Now, when we say governing bodies, if you are licensed by Massage Board, the Cosmetology Board, or any of those other boards, those are not the governing bodies we're looking for. Now, you can put those in there and say that you have been approved by them, but that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is what state entity authorizes your school to operate within the state of Tennessee? And that's what we need to find out on there. Again, if you don't have an exemption, you'll need to make sure you get one or use your DPSA letter and make sure that's up to date too, because they need to keep track of that at that point. So hopefully that kind of clarifies what you need for that. If not, contact us and we'll help you with that.
Moving right along, accredited, non-accredited. If you are accredited, you'll put the name of the accrediting body, whether it's COE, NACAS, ACCSC, I think is the other one that a lot of NCDs use. Whatever that accrediting body is that's recognized by Department of Education, you'll list it here.
And that's not your massage boards, cosmetology boards. That's not what that's intended for.
So this portion of the form is where you're going to request what training modality are you looking for? So how are we going to train these students? Are they going to be in resident? Are they distance? Do we have any contracted courses? Supervised practical training, cooperative farm. And just as a note, because it says distance learning here, not all modalities, it tells you right here, are approvable for all facilities. I know some schools are approved by their accrediting body to teach in this distance education or online courses. However, they don't meet the requirements for VA approval. So your accrediting body may say, yep, you can teach distance, but we still have to approve that. And a lot of times distance is not an approvable modality for NCD schools. So most of y'all will do residence, supervised practical or cooperative, farm cooperative, or if there's something else that doesn't quite fit here. This section of the worksheet is kind of like where you would go in and tell us what page number we could find the information in your catalog or your student handbook. So here you're going to actually have to physically type in the identifying data of what you're sending to us. Is it the catalog? Is it a student handbook? So as you're looking at these, you'll tell me, okay, it's in the catalog and here's the page number you find it. We ask that you don't list any websites, even though it asked for your website earlier, we can't use websites here. And, you know, potentially it could be information that's found in a student handbook. It could be a policy separate from the handbook. You would just put like grading policy. We would also need a copy of that. So any publications you list here are publications or documents you would have to include with your catalog submission. This particular question is just for accredited facilities. It wants to know in the catalog or your whatever publication it is, where's that listed? This one here is for non-accredited facilities, and it tells you specifically what you need to fill in for this block. And then again, if you are a non-accredited facility, you would fill in this whole section. Accredited facilities, you don't have to worry about it. And if for some reason you feel like none of this is applicable to you and you put NA or you don't have it, notice this note here. It says you have to provide an addendum on letterhead for any information requested above that's not currently listed in the catalog or school publication. So basically, we need to know why it's not in there. And then you're also gonna still submit us a list of all the programs that you want approved. It's gonna ask a few more general questions about things related to the school. Have you had any litigation? Has any government entity taken action? Accredited facilities, it wants to know if you've had any letters of probation or suspension from your accrediting body. Non-accredited facilities, you need to answer this one. It's about being financially sound and provide financial documentation. And then this piece here is certifications and acknowledgement. So basically, you're certifying that your school is doing these things and you're acknowledging that you understand that these are all requirements of approval. So this talks about complying with applicable laws, different actions that are related to your training. This one says that you're going to maintain the records and you're going to look at prior credit and award as appropriate. This one says that you understand you will provide either the Department of Education college financing plan, or you're going to provide a different document that meets the requirements here. I know we've asked a lot of you all for either a shopping sheet or a college financing plan. This is, the section that talks about that. Everybody has to have electronic funds transfer, which I think all of you all have direct deposit already. If for some reason you're not set up with direct deposit with the VA and they're sending you paper checks, let us know. By law now, the VA has to make all payments by electronic funds transfer. Non-accredited again there. This talks about your advertising materials. So you have to submit advertising and recruiting materials your facility uses. And it tells you that it's included to brochures, internet advertising, newspaper inserts, any third-party contracts that you may have or that you use to recruit students. And if you post any graduation rates or placement data, you need to cite where you're getting that information from. This kind of gives you a definition of misleading, misrepresentation. These are all the things that when Isaacson and Rowe came out and they really had to start looking at advertising, these are the different things that we're looking for in the advertising. Is it misleading or a misrepresentation? Another piece it talks about here in the marketing is the GI Bill trademark. So sometimes you may get an email from us that says, hey, if you want to use the word GI Bill, it's trademarked, you got to have the little R symbol and you have to have the statement. So there's a link to the trademark terms of use, but this is saying, yep, we understand we have to do that. There's a space if you need to add remarks for anything that's not listed above. And that is where the NCD application ends. And again, if you pick the correct link from the website, you will only get the pieces you need. These other worksheets are for different types of schools. That's all I've got on that. Have you got any questions or anything yet?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
Yeah, Irina's setting up to share her screen here in a second.
So this is what is actually going to be previously replacing the SAA-2. So it is now the TN SAA-2 program submission list. So there's multiple tabs on the bottom and you're going to actually have to fill out multiple sections. So the first section is the VA Form 22-102-88A. And it is, you can see the top now. So it actually requires the information for the SEO, and then it does require a signature and contact and information for an authorizing official. So again, as Penny said, whoever you determine that is, they're also going to be signing this. So if you click over to the NCD program submission tab at the bottom, this is where you're going to put all of your programs that you're requesting approval for. So at the top, just as the old one was, you're going to have the institution name, date, facility code. This is a little bit different. So for the catalog publication used, you can actually put multiple options. There's 3 options here. If you need more, you do need to add a second sheet with those additional publications. So examples of this could be a handbook, the course catalog, any bulletin that has the information for the programs listed. So you're still going to put the program name just as you did previously. Award degree, so what type, it's actually a little drop down. So what's awarded from the program. Over here for the catalog publication number, you're going to click whichever option that program is listed in. So if it's in the catalog and you have the catalog listed as number 1 up top, you're going to click the option for number 1. You're also going to put the corresponding page number for the program listed in the publication, the credit clock hours of the program, and then the number of theory versus practical clock hours. A new item is we do require the SIP code. Ken, I don't know if you want to talk about SIP
It
codes.
stands for Classification of Instructional Programs. When you are looking up your SIP codes, some of you may have like an institutional research section that may have it, or you may have it collected with other documentation. But the SIP code is the federal SIP code on there. There is a Tennessee version of the SIP code. We're not looking for that, but the federal one is within that SIP code. So make sure you have those correct for what's reported to your state entities, or if you are accredited to your accrediting agencies. We'll need to cut those numbers.
Okay, so moving on past the SIP codes to notes, this is where you're going to click the drop down for new program, continue program, or withdrawn. And that's just gonna be what the action you're requesting for the program listed. The SAA use only, leave that blank, do not fill it in. That's for us. Something to note though, if you download the SAA-1, it is not the same form. So it's not asking for the same information, and we will reject the application if it is using the wrong form. It will not give us the information we need. I think that's about all I have for this. If you guys have any comments?
Question just came in. Question asked, for the theory versus shop practice, do you want the actual clock hours of the theory practice? And this is an excellent question. So yes, previously we asked for percentages. In this case, it's asking for how many hours for each. So basically what you can do is you definitely want to look at your curriculum and see how many hours you do for your theory, how many you do for your practical. If you're not sure and you still have some of your old SAA2s, you may be able to calculate it using the percentages that you had before. Just keep in mind, this is set in place so the VA can determine what constitutes full time, either 18 or 22 hours on there. So do not put 50-50. So in other words, if it's 100 clock hours, you have 50 clock hours and 50 clock hours. No, it needs to be at least like 49-51 or something to that effect or more. So add the hours, not the percentage.
I'm going to move on to the form stack, submitting your application once everything is complete, if we don't have any other questions. So once you've completed your application, you've completed your TN SAA-2 program submission list, and you have all of your other documents ready to go for submission, you're going to go back to our website and click on the catalog submission link that is under the NCD program tab. And this is what it's going to take you to. So it's slightly different than the old one. The first thing that's going to ask is your institution type. So we're all NCDs here. We can click NCD. Something to note is if you do not answer a question, it's not going to submit. It will actually bring you back up, and whatever's not answered is going to be in red. All of the questions or submission links that have the red asterisk next to it are required. So as we go through, you can kind of see how some of it changes based on some of the questions are asked of you to answer. So you have to put your facility name, facility code, and then you're going to put an email that you want a confirmation email sent to upon successful submission. So that is something new. You will get a confirmation email when you do submit the application. So the next thing is you're going to list your accreditation status. So for this, we're going to be an accredited facility. So as you can see, another link or another form pops up, which is evidence of accreditation. And we are asking that this has an expiration date. So something stating you're accrediting, your expiration date. So a good example of this would be the letter you get from your accrediting body. And as you can see, if you click non-accredited, it's not there. So your requirements will change as you go through and answer questions. So it is a required document. As you can see, the red asterisk is right there. So we're going to put a file in there. The next thing is going to be the application, the 10288. So again, required document. And then the next thing is going to ask if you're adding or withdrawing any programs. So we'll just put no for this one for now, but you answer as you need to. The next thing is going to be the TNSA-2 course program submission list. It is another required document. And then a copy of the catalog, bulletin, handbook, whatever your facility uses. Then you're going to select the type of institution you are. So if it's public, for-profit, not-for-profit. So as you can see, when you go through, additional forms do populate down here. Penny, do you have a comment on this one?
So for the not-for-profit schools, if you are a private not-for-profit school, something that the VA has made us aware of recently is that you are required to complete that VA Form 22-1919. All the proprietary schools or for-profit schools have to do that. Public is exempt. But we've noticed the VA's just told us, hey, they've all got to do it if they are not public schools.
And if they're accredited.
If they're, well, accredited, yeah.
Okay, so moving on from that, you can see there's some forms down here that are not necessarily required, but that does not mean you do not necessarily need them for your approval. It's just not required for every single type of institute. So if you're submitting for a new SEO, you can put your 8794, college financing plan is on here, instructor credentials, depending on what you need, and then program participation for Title IV. So that is required. If your files exceed 25 megabytes, email us, we'll set up a cloud link for you to submit documents, and we'll give you a form to put in place for the required form that you actually have to upload to submit the application, so you can still submit it correctly. If you have additional files that are not listed above that you do need to submit, we have plenty of room for additional files. So if you think you're ready to move on to the next page, you're just going to click next. You can see I didn't put the date in, so it's red. It did not go through. So we're going to add the date real quick, and then we'll go on. So this is new. You are going to have to complete this to be able to actually submit the application. So it is a statement of assurance. It's verifying that everything in the catalog and handbook that you're submitting is true and correct. So you're going to click yes. Again, this is going to be the authorizing institutional representative, and you're just going to put their name, and then they do need to sign this also. And it is just a little scratch pad or whatever this is called. So once you've completed this is going to be the last thing you need to do for the actual FormStack application. So you're going to go submit form. Submitting. So thank you. Successfully submitted. It does take about 5 to 10 minutes for the confirmation email to come through to your email that it was submitted. But I'm gonna pull that up real quick so you can see what that looks like. So once your application has been successfully submitted, this is an email you'll get. So it will just show that the catalog application submission, and then all of the accompanying sections that you did complete. As you scroll through this, you are going to see spots that are asking for documents that you did not need to submit, or you were not asked to submit. Just ignore it. That's fine. That's just all of the potential documents you possibly could have submitted based off the answers you gave us during the FormStack application. So you didn't mess it up. It's done. It's correct as long as you get this email. That's all I have. If you have anything else on this.
Okay. All right. I've got one extra part, but before I do it, there's a good question that came up about catalogs and the yearly submissions. For those schools that have a new catalog every year on here. So basically, now the VA is saying that as the state approving agency, we must approve our school programs every 24 months. However, like with a lot of your schools, you have a catalog that comes out once a year. So if you say did a reapproval 2 years or a year ago, it's good for 24 months. However, you have a new catalog that just came out. If that catalog has changes to it, in other words, you added new programs, you changed policies, or anything that could potentially change the certification for a student in some way or how it affects them, then you're going to contact us to do a modification to your programs at that point, and then we'll work from there. We're also waiting for a little more clarification from the VA about those annual catalogs, because there potentially could be some more requirements going on. If that does happen, we'll let everybody know to make sure you're aware of it. But the main one that we're talking about today is just the 24-month reapproval using these forms at this point. Again, if you got changes that need to be approved, let us know. What if the only change is the new calendar that is released each year? Contact us and we'll work with you at that point and work on those changes. A lot of schools we don't need, especially a lot of schools we don't need those all the time, so it may not be a problem. As we get more clarification from the VA, we'll let you know for sure. But if it's policies or programs, and the policies could affect the students, those for sure will need to be modified. So. Okay, so Arena talked about what you do once the application is done. And as you can tell, the good part is you can actually download the application, fill it out on your computer, and then that last step is so much easier to upload. Once it's done and submitted, we will download it on our end, and then we'll review it as soon as we get it within order of when we receive those. And once we're done with the review, and if we don't have to ask for more items from your school, we will then send you a letter saying that your program has been approved, or whatever the letter may entail. If you get that approval letter, that's just saying as SAA, it's approved. We then submit it to the VA, and they have to review it to be able to accept it. Once they are done with their acceptance, they're going to send you or the SCO a copy of a new Weems form, or 1998. When you get that form, right away, review it. Make sure that all the details are on there are correct. We've seen stuff like the catalog years were incorrect. They never updated them. Programs, make sure your programs are current and up to date and correct for what you submitted on there. The one thing we need to mention on there is for your programs, if you are going to maybe in the next year withdraw the program, or with the catalog that you submit, you're withdrawing it, but you still have students attending that program because you're doing like a teach out, you're just not accepting new students, don't withdraw it until the last student is withdrawn, because that will stop you from that student getting paid on there. Okay, so that's why we want you to make sure everything's good on that, because whatever is on that Weems is what's going to show up in your enrollment manager for the programs that you can select. So if it's not correct, let us know right away so we can fix it. If you wait too long, then we're going to have to do a modification or approval, and that takes more time for it. So if you get it done right away, that helps out a lot. Okay. All right. So some questions that have popped up. Yes. Okay. How about tuition fees increase each year? The non-accredited NCDs are the only ones we need tuition and fees for. The others we don't really need, like the accredited schools, we don't need those on there. Contact us, we'll let you know once if you change those tuition fees, and we can go from there. Governed bodies. Okay. So who's the person? D. Moten, I apologize if I said that wrong. Do you want to go ahead and just clarify what you're looking for, or is it the whole thing? I'm sorry, yeah. D, are you able to speak? You have to take off mute. Okay. We can always go back on that one. Part about being approved. Oh, okay. All right, so I'm assuming you are a private institution. So if you are a private institution, you should have approval through the THAC Division of Post-Secondary Authorization. If you do not have an approval through them, you should have an exemption from them saying that you're basically, either one is saying that you're authorized to have teach schools within the state of Tennessee. If you don't have either one of those, let us know. I can email you. Go ahead.
Okay, when you say THAC, you mean Tennessee Higher Education?
Yes. I'm
Oh,
careful
okay.
that because we're also THAC. We all work together, but we're the state approving agency. They're DPSA, or basically Division of Post-Secondary Authorization.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you said THAC like THAC. I was like, what organization is that? So I understand where you're talking about. Tennessee Higher Education. No worries.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad that was
Thank you.
clarified on that. Because a lot of people
Yep.
don't have that authorization. We want to make sure that's clear and get that taken care of for you. Okay?
Yes. Okay, I have that. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Lisa, you've had your hand up for a while?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm the CSO for Georgia Career Institute. Our main campus is in Georgia, and I'm in Murfreesboro, which I do both schools. So am I doing this for Tennessee? Am I also doing this for in Georgia too?
Yes and no. Yes, for us, yeah, for the schools that are, this is only for schools that are within the boundaries of the state of Tennessee. However, the thing is that this exact same form is what you will use in the other states for NCDs, but you will not send it to us for Georgia. That'll go to the Georgia SAA. Does that make sense?
Yes, because when I first started a year ago, when I did the one catalog, I was like, why is this other VA asking? Because I didn't understand the difference between the state agency and the VA directly.
Yes.
And then, so when we did our approval catalog back in February, I just got the approval letter like 2 months ago. So I should be going by that date on the
The
approval
date
letter.
of the letter, because the date that we put on the letter should be the same date we send it to the VA, which is the date the VA is using, and that's what we go off of.
They took their time. Okay.
Well,
I think that's it. Yeah.
And we apologize. Up to this point, we've had a huge backlog trying to catch everybody up on it. And it's been a challenge to get a lot of these documents from schools. So
Sure.
we will let you know that now, if we need new documentation, we're going to give you a deadline to get it to us. If it's
Sure.
not there by that time, there's a potential that the school could be suspended until we get it. Because we've had some times where it took months for us to get a response back from some of these schools, which puts us in a backlog. So,
Well, when I sent it, they told me it was approved. They didn't anything else. And then, so I thought it was approved. And then like 6-7 months later, I got the approval letter. So it was just different. I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So.
well, that's a good point to make on there. So because all the schools we're talking to today are already approved, you're still approved, but we have to go through every 24 months and reapprove all your programs at that point.
Okay.
So yes,
Okay.
both were correct at that point.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question on there. Okay. All right, if I have centralized certification, does that info go somewhere on the application? Do I still do 3 separate applications for each school?
Yes.
So, yeah, the centralized certification itself isn't listed on your 1998, but the list of all the school certifying officials that are in that centralized cert should be listed on there. And I want to make a point on this. If you change your school certifying officials, get a new 8794 in there and make sure the new one lists every current school certifying official. Because if that doesn't get updated, we don't know to update our stuff and, you know, people aren't getting notified. For the, do I still do 3 separate applications for each school? Potentially, or yes, definitely. Where the potential part is, like I was talking about with Lisa there, is that if they're in different states, then of course you're going to send them to different places. You send them to this state approving agency that has jurisdiction over those schools. So if it's in the state of Tennessee, it's ours that you'll send it to, but you'll do it for each school. Does that help answer your question, Lindsay? Okay, good. All right, what other questions are out there? If you want to pull yourself off of mute and ask the question, feel free, or if you want to put it in the chat, that's fine also. You don't have anything else you want to add while we're at?
Something we talked about earlier was we could potentially reject an application, so you send everything in, there's a lot of mistakes on it, we're gonna say sorry. We're gonna send you an email, say we can't accept it, you need to redo it. With the SAA form where you list all your programs, make sure that all the programs that you want approved are listed there, because the VA could potentially say, well, they didn't ask for approval for it, so we're gonna withdraw it. It's not there, and we don't necessarily have the time to double check the SAA form to your 1998. That's something you should be doing before you even send the form to us. Is it on my 1998? Do I still need it approved? If it's missing, I need to get it added.
All right, got a question of define what is accredited or non-accredited. When we talk about this is an accreditation agency such as SACS, NACAS, COE. I'm not about to say what each one means because I'd have to look up what the titles are exactly. If the Department of Education lists them on their website as an accreditation, then that, and your school is approved, then that is the accreditor. This is not situations like the DPSA approval, the licensing boards such as the massage board, the cosmetology board. Those are not accreditors. FAA is not an accreditor, but if it's something, most of them that I see with NCDs are NACAS, COE. Trying to think some of the others.
ACCSC.
Yeah, ACCSC. There's one that is talks about distance learning on there. So those are the accreditors at that point. Trent, I think yours, I'm not sure if you guys are accredited or not, and it would have to make sure that your facility is accredited.
So if you're accredited, you may have Title IV funding, Pell Grant. If you are accredited, you almost have to have Title IV funding for VA approval with very few exceptions.
Mhm.
Mainly what I was referring to is, I'll just talk, I guess, probably it's easier to, as we're accredited with a national certification for our certification that we give out to veterans. So that you're mainly looking for SACS and those kinds of accreditations. So I see the difference.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thanks.
And trust me, we get similar things to that quite often, so that's a good question on there. All right, SIP codes. I am going to put a link in here. And basically, it's the national listing of SIP codes on there. It's just the general listing of those. Every program that's instructed should have some sort of SIP code. If you are reporting to DPSA you have to provide them SIP codes. If you're accredited, you're gonna have SIP codes because you have to report that to DOE whenever you have Title IV. So those help those schools. The ones that are non-accredited, if you don't have a SIP code and you're not sure at that point, you can look it up on this website, see if you can find it. If you're not sure what to do on it, contact us and we'll help you work through that process. But it also helps us identify another issue that we're looking at of those schools that aren't or don't have SIP codes. Are they not getting reported where they need to? So, definitely let us know at that point. Okay. All right, question from Denise. When you are done uploading everything, who can complete the online signature? Okay. For the online signature, the SEO or whoever's uploading it can use that or can sign that one. That's on the website itself. For the ones on the forms, those are where we want someone that is authorized at more, I can't say exactly executive level, but someone who can influence policy with your school needs to be the one signing that one. So with some of the smaller schools, it may be the president, the owner. If it's at a, say a TCAT, you may want to get like some of the, at the vice president level, somebody that can influence the policies that are in place, because you don't want to be someone that is, say, a coordinator at some of these schools signing this off. And then when you get dinged by VA for not following a certain policy, now you have to explain to them, well, why didn't we know about this policy? So it helps them be aware of what's going on too. So that'll help out there. Hope that answers that question for the signatures. Okay, what other questions do we have out there? We've got about 11 more minutes, so we've got time and we'll stay on longer if there's more questions. That's no problem. Yeah. Okay, since it's kind of quiet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the recording, but please don't make that something stop you from asking questions.